Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're looking into something absolutely fundamental. What drives us, especially within the demanding world of medicine. We all see that incredible dedication, don't we? That real push to heal and innovate.
We do, and it raises a big question. What's really underneath all that? What fuels that excellence and well-being when the pressure is immense?
Exactly. And our mission today really is to challenge some of those, well, ingrained ideas about motivation.
Yes, moving past the simple carrot and stick.
Yeah.
We want to explore how understanding our, fundamental drives can genuinely impact job satisfaction, performance, and even innovation in healthcare. It's quite profound, actually.
Let's kick off with a little thought experiment. Imagine it's, say, 1995. You're telling an economist you've got a crystal ball showing two new encyclopedias about to launch. Which one will succeed by 2010?
Okay, so the first is from Microsoft. Huge company, well-funded. They'll pay professionals, have managers sell it. The works, basically Encarta. Built on all the usual business rules, incentives, management, planning.
Right. Standard stuff. Then there's the second one. Not from a company at all. Built by volunteers. Thousands of them. Working for free, just for the fun of it, no pay. And the encyclopedia itself. Online only. Totally free.
Well, back in '95, any sensible economist would have probably laughed, wouldn't they? The second model sounds, frankly, ridiculous by conventional standards. Microsoft has all the resources, pays people properly.
It seems like a no-brainer. Encarta must win.
Exactly. The volunteers, they're getting nothing, even losing potential earnings. It defies economic logic as we knew it.
But as you probably know, that's not what happened. October 2009, Microsoft shut down Encarta.
And the other one? Wikipedia. Became the biggest encyclopedia in the world. Millions of articles, hundreds of languages. It didn't just survive, it thrived.
It completely overturned expectations, didn't it?
It really did. Shattered that conventional wisdom. It suggests there's something else going on, a different kind of driver we often overlook.
And that's precisely why this matters so much for medicine. If this applies to encyclopedias, what does it mean for a field like ours? High skill, high stakes, lives on the line.
You have to ask, don't you? Is our basic understanding of motivation actually fit for purpose in today's complex medical world? A world demanding constant learning, empathy, innovation? Perhaps it's outdated.
So let's dig into where this alternative understanding came from. It started, perhaps surprisingly, quite a while ago, middle of the last century.
That's right, with two scientists whose initial work didn't quite get the traction it deserved at the time. We begin in 1949 with Harry Harlow at the University of Wisconsin.
The primate lab guy.
The very same. He set up this lab and gave rhesus monkeys a simple mechanical puzzle. Pull a pin, undo a hook, lift a lid. Simple for us, but tricky for a monkey.
And he just put these in their cages. No training, no reward planned initially.
Exactly, just to see how they'd react, sort of baseline observation before proper tests.
Yeah.
But something quite remarkable happened straight away.
What was that?
The monkeys, completely unprompted, just started playing with the puzzles. They were focused, determined. Harlow even said they looked like they were, well, enjoying it, and they got good at it, fast, solving it in under a minute sometimes.
Wow. Without any reward, that goes against the grain, doesn't it?
Completely. Back then, the thinking was all about two main drives. Biological needs, hunger, thirst, sex, and external rewards or punishments. Skinner and all that.
The behaviorist view.
Precisely. But these monkeys weren't hungry or thirsty. Solving the puzzle didn't get them food or water. And there were absolutely no external rewards. No raisins, no applause, nothing.
So Harlow was puzzled himself.
He was. He wrote about it, posing interesting questions for motivation theory. How could they learn and perform so well without any extrinsic incentives? He was genuinely scratching his head.
So what did he propose?
He suggested a third drive. He argued the performance of the task provided intrinsic reward. They did it because doing it felt good. The enjoyment was the reward itself. He called it intrinsic motivation.
A groundbreaking idea for the time.
Absolutely. But then came the really baffling part. He thought, okay, if I do give them a reward, like a raisin, surely they'll do even better.
Makes sense.
But no, the complete opposite happened. When he introduced food rewards, the monkeys made more errors and solved the puzzles less often.
That's astonishing. A reward made performance worse.
He was stunned. He wrote it was a phenomenon not reported in the literature. It suggested our whole understanding was, well, flawed. He urged scientists to close down large sections of our theoretical junkyard, saying our explanations were actively misleading.
A pretty strong statement, but then he didn't pursue it.
Largely, no.
Mhm.
He moved on to other research. It was controversial, challenging the core beliefs of the time, and maybe the pushback was too strong. So these crucial insights just sat there, on the periphery, for about 2 decades.
Incredible, until someone else picked it up.
Yes, fast forward to 1969. Edward Deasing, a psychology graduate student at Carnegie Mellon. He had an MBA, actually, and suspected that both academics and businesses had motivation fundamentally wrong.
So he wanted to test Harlow's idea, but with people this time.
Spot on. He used the Soma puzzle cube, quite a popular, tricky puzzle back then. He got university students, split them into 2 groups, A and B, 3 one-hour sessions over 3 days. A very careful setup.
Okay, so what was the structure?
Session 1, both groups just worked on puzzles from drawings. Then Dissy left the room for 8 minutes, saying they could do whatever they liked, carry on puzzling, read magazines, just sit there. He secretly watched them.
And what happened in that first session?
Both groups spent a similar amount of free time on the puzzle, about 3 or 4 minutes. He showed a basic level of intrinsic interest.
Right, makes sense. Then session 2.
This is where it changed. Group A was told they'd get paid $1 for each puzzle solved. Group B, the control, got nothing. Now, during the 8-minute free time in this session, Group A, the paid group, suddenly spent much more time on the puzzle, over 5 minutes.
Ah, so the money worked. Exactly what you'd expect.
On the surface, yes. It looked like proof that rewards boost engagement. But then came day 3, the crucial test.
What happened on day 3?
Dacey told Group A the money had run out for that session, so no pay today, just like the first day. Now watch what happens in the free choice period. Group B, who were never paid, actually played with the puzzle a bit longer than before. Still interested.
Okay. And Group A, the ones who had been paid?
They spent significantly less time on the puzzle. Not just less than when they were paid, but even less than their initial unpaid session. Their original motivations seemed to have vanished.
Wow. So the reward actually killed their interest long term, just like Harlow's monkeys.
Precisely. Dissy's conclusion was stark. When money is used as an external reward for some activity, the subjects lose intrinsic interest for the activity. That short-term boost from the cash seemed to undermine the deeper inherent motivation.
Like a sugar rush followed by a crash.
A good analogy. Dissy argued humans have this inherent tendency to seek out novelty and challenges, to explore and to learn, our third drive. But, he warned, it's fragile. It needs the right conditions. External controls like money can crush it.
So focusing only on external rewards can backfire spectacularly.
It can. Dissy admitted it was controversial. Nobody was expecting rewards would have a negative effect. But it launched his lifelong work challenging our core assumptions about motivation.
And you can immediately see the relevance for medicine, can't you? If someone goes into medicine driven by that passion for care or the intellectual challenge.
Exactly. What happens if we overlay that with purely external incentives? Bonuses tied strictly to patient numbers or adherence to protocols without room for judgment. Could that unintentionally diminish that core intrinsic drive?
It's a really concerning thought. Think about a medical student, maybe full of enthusiasm, loving the science, maybe even volunteering extra hours.
Right. And then perhaps the system starts rewarding them, mainly for ticking boxes, completing specific tasks for marks, hitting certain metrics. They might do the tasks, sure, short-term compliance.
But that initial spark, that love of learning for its own sake.
It could get dampened down, couldn't it? The focus shifts. From the fascination of understanding disease or connecting with a patient to just earning the grade or hitting the target. The why changes, and that changes everything.
Okay, so this leads us into what's often called Motivation 2.0, this sort of default operating system for much of the last century.
That's a good way to put it. It's built on 2 very simple ideas, really. Reward what you want more of, punish what you want less of. The carrot and the stick.
And to be fair, it did work for certain kinds of tasks, didn't it?
Oh, absolutely. For routine, algorithmic work assembly lines, basic admin, anything where the steps are clear and repetitive, it was pretty effective. If you pay per piece, you often get more pieces. Simple cause and effect.
But there's a massive caveat here, isn't there, before any of this even applies?
Crucially, yes. You must have adequate baseline rewards. Fair salary, decent benefits, equitable compensation. If people feel fundamentally undervalued or insecure, forget motivation. Their focus is entirely on that unfairness, that anxiety.
Which feels particularly relevant in healthcare right now with workforce pressures and retention issues. That baseline fairness is non-negotiable.
Absolutely vital. You can't motivate someone who feels unfairly treated or constantly worried about making ends meet. But once that baseline is met, That's when Motivation 2.0 starts to show its cracks, especially for complex work.
Right. And you've identified 7 key areas where it can actually backfire. 7 deadly flaws, as it were.
That's right. 7 ways this traditional approach can be counterproductive, even harmful, particularly in fields like medicine.
Let's start with the first one, which is quite striking. It can actually extinguish intrinsic motivation, the Sawyer effect.
Exactly. Named after Tom Sawyer tricking his friends into enjoying whitewashing a fence. Rewards can do the opposite, turn play into work.
There was that study with preschoolers in drawing.
Yes, leper and green. Kids who naturally liked drawing were split into groups. One group was told they'd get a certificate if they drew an expected reward. Another got a surprise certificate afterwards. A third got nothing.
And the result?
Weeks later, the kids who expected the award showed much less interest in drawing during free play than the other two groups.
Yeah.
The expected reward had somehow killed their natural enjoyment.
So it's the expectation of the reward that does the damage. It reframes the activity.
Precisely. It's just the why. Imagine that young doctor, passionate about their specialism. If suddenly every little thing is tied to a metric or a bonus patient interactions, research output, even attending meetings, the focus can subtly shift
From the joy of the task itself.
to simply earning the reward. The satisfaction of helping someone, the intellectual buzz of a diagnosis that can get overshadowed by hitting the target. It fundamentally changes the experience.
Okay, flaw number 2. Diminishing performance, especially for complex tasks.
Yes. There was a study in India by Dan R. Riley. People were offered low, medium, or high cash rewards for tasks needing cognitive skill, memory games, anagrams, that sort of thing.
And you'd think higher rewards equal better performance.
You would. But for the cognitive tasks, the group offered the highest rewards performed the worst. They seem to choke under the pressure. And it's not isolated. A big LSE meta-analysis found financial incentives often negatively impact performance on thinking tasks.
That's deeply concerning for healthcare, isn't it? Complex diagnosis, intricate surgery, research breakthroughs. These aren't routine.
Not at all. They're heuristic needing creativity, judgment, adaptability. If you put intense pressure on, say, the volume of patients seen or the number of procedures done through high-stakes bonuses.
It could narrow the focus, make people rush, maybe miss things.
Potentially, yes. It might impair that careful, comprehensive thinking needed for the best outcomes, especially in tricky cases, or hinder the collaboration needed for discovery. The pressure to hit the number could inadvertently compromise the quality.
Flaw 3. Crushing creativity, the candle problem.
Glucksberg's classic experiment. Fix a candle to the wall with tacks and matches, don't let wax drip. You need to realize the box holding the tacks can be used as a shelf.
Ah, the out-of-the-box thinking.
Literally. And when people were offered money for solving it quickly, they took longer. The reward narrowed their focus, made them less likely to see the creative solution.
And Teresa Amabile found similar things with artists.
Yes, her work is fascinating. Commissioned art, driven by external demands and rewards, was consistently rated less creative than the artist's non-commissioned passion projects, even if technically good. The artists felt more constrained.
So the intrinsically motivated artists ultimately did better creatively.
In the long run, yes, which has huge implications for medical innovation. If research or developing new treatments is driven mainly by if-then rewards, hit this target, get this bonus, it could stifle the very creativity needed for real breakthroughs. It encourages safe bets over bold ideas.
Okay, number 4. Crowding out good behavior. This one feels quite fundamental.
It does. Think about the Swedish blood donation study. Offering a small payment actually halved the number of donors compared to the purely voluntary group. It seemed to taint the altruistic act, turn something noble into a transaction, and that somehow lessened the appeal for many.
And the Israeli daycare fines.
Another classic. Fines for late pickups were meant to reduce lateness. Instead, late arrivals increased. The fine changed it from a moral obligation, don't inconvenience the staff, to a price you could pay for being late.
That's directly relevant to medical ethics, isn't it? Altruism is so core to the profession.
Absolutely. If you start incentivizing things like shorter consult times or hitting procedure quotas too heavily, does that subtly undermine the doctor's intrinsic drive to provide comprehensive, compassionate care? Does the focus shift from the patient's holistic needs to just efficiency or volume? It's a real risk.
Flaw 5. Encouraging cheating, shortcuts, and unethical behavior.
Yes, when you have narrow, high-stakes, short-term goals, the pressure to hit the number can become immense. We've seen it in sales with mis-selling, in finance with cooking the books. The goal restricts the view, as some researchers put it.
And the potential for that in medicine is Well, worrying. Pressure on financial targets, waiting lists without enough resources, procedure quotas.
It creates a temptation, doesn't it, to maybe cut corners on care quality, perhaps fudge the data slightly, or even, in the worst cases, engage in unethical billing or unnecessary procedures just to meet the target. The low road becomes appealing.
Whereas intrinsic motivation, wanting to learn, help patients do your best, doesn't offer shortcuts.
Exactly. The goal is the high road.
Number 6, creating addiction. Rewards can be addictive.
In a sense, yes. Once you offer a reward for something, people expect it. And often you need bigger rewards over time to get the same effect. Brian Knutson's fMRI studies showed anticipating money lights up the nucleus accumbens.
The brain's reward center, same area involved in drug addiction.
The very same. That dopamine hit. It suggests a potentially compulsive loop can be created.
So for professionals, constantly chasing bonuses or recognition could become a treadmill.
It could. Satisfaction becomes fleeting, always needing the next external hit, which can lead straight to burnout or deep dissatisfaction if those rewards aren't there or aren't enough. It makes fulfillment dependent on something external.
And finally, number 7, fostering short-term thinking.
Yes, rewards tend to narrow focus onto the immediate gain, like companies obsessed with quarterly earnings, sacrificing long-term R&D.
And in healthcare.
It could mean focusing on immediate metrics, discharge rates, short-term cost savings, while neglecting long-term patient health, preventive care, or building sustainable systems.
So incentivizing quick discharges might mean less time for patient education that prevents future problems.
Or focusing only on acute treatment rather than investing in community health that prevents illness in the first place. It shifts focus from the patient's lifelong well-being to just the next measurable event, a very short-term view.
Right, so we've painted a fairly bleak picture of traditional rewards in many contexts, but it's not all bad, is it? You're not saying get rid of all extrinsic motivators.
Oh, absolutely not. That would be throwing the baby out with the bathwater. The science is more nuanced. There are specific situations where carrots and sticks do work, and understanding that is crucial for healthcare settings.
Okay, so when do they work?
The big exception is for routine tasks. Remember Glucksberg's Campbell problem. When he made it easy, took the tax out of the box, making the solution obvious, the rewarded group solved it faster.
Because it wasn't a creative challenge anymore, just execution.
Exactly. It became algorithmic routine.
Mhm.
And the core principle here is rewards don't undermine intrinsic motivation for dull tasks because, well, there's usually very little intrinsic motivation there to undermine in the first place.
Ah, right. So for things like straightforward data entry, basic admin, repetitive lab procedures.
Precisely. Tasks that don't require much creativity or passion, just accuracy and efficiency. For those, if-then incentives or higher pay can genuinely lead to better performance without those negative side effects we talked about.
Okay, that's a really important distinction. And even when using rewards for these routine tasks, are there ways to do it better?
Yes, definitely. 3 key practices help. First, offer a clear rationale. Explain why the task matters, even if it's dull.
Like this accurate data entry is vital for patient safety and care quality.
Exactly. Give it context, link it to the bigger purpose. It makes even mundane work feel more significant. Second, acknowledge the task might be boring.
Just be honest about it.
Yes. Say something like, look, we know this paperwork isn't exciting, but it's necessary, and we really appreciate you doing it diligently. It shows respect, validates their experience.
Then third,
Allow autonomy over technique where possible. Even for routine stuff, don't dictate every single step if you don't have to.
so these reports need finishing by 5 p.m. You figure out the best workflow.
That sort of thing. Giving even a small amount of control over the how can boost engagement and satisfaction significantly.
Okay, so that's routine tasks. What about the non-routine, creative, conceptual work? Developing new techniques, complex research, innovative patient programs. If-then rewards are still risky there.
Extremely risky. That's where they narrow focus and stifle creativity. For that kind of work, if you want to use rewards, the approach needs to be different. We call it now that rewards.
Now that, how does that work?
These are rewards given after the task is complete, unexpectedly, and not contingent on hitting a specific pre-agreed target. More like a bonus or a thank you after great work has already been done.
So not if you do this, then you'll get that, but now that you've done such great work, here's a token of appreciation.
Precisely. For example, now that your team has navigated that incredibly complex case so brilliantly, let's celebrate with a team lunch. It's recognition, not an incentive that drove the behavior, so it's much less likely to undermine intrinsic motivation.
And within those, now that rewards, non-tangible ones are powerful.
Hugely powerful. First, specific, sincere praise and positive feedback, offered privately, ideally, not just good job, but detailed comments on what was good. The insight shown, the empathy demonstrated, the skill applied, that really lands and boosts intrinsic drive.
It affirms their competence.
Exactly. And second, useful informational feedback.
Mm.
Not just hitting targets, but feedback that helps them learn and grow. For a researcher, detailed comments on methodology or the potential impact of their work is far more motivating long-term than just a checkmark for publishing. It feeds into mastery.
So it's about using rewards thoughtfully, strategically, and often shifting from if-then to now-that, especially for complex work.
That's the key takeaway. Nuance is everything.
Right. We've explored the pitfalls of Motivation 2.0 and the nuances of rewards. Now let's pivot to Motivation 3.0. This is the the upgraded operating system.
You could say that. It's built on a much deeper, more scientifically sound understanding of what truly drives us. It fosters what we call type I behavior.
Type I behavior.
Yes, behavior that's fueled by intrinsic desires, the inherent satisfaction of the activity itself. It leads to better performance, better health, greater well-being overall. It's the opposite of type X, which is all about the external rewards.
And crucially, type I isn't something you're born with.
No, it's made, not born. The environment, the organizational culture is absolutely key. Organizations can choose to create conditions where type I behavior flourishes, or they can stifle it.
And the science points to three core elements, three essential nutrients for this.
That's right. The pillars of Motivation 3.0 are autonomy, mastery, and purpose. When these three are present, people thrive.
Let's break those down, starting with autonomy.
Autonomy is fundamentally the desire to direct our own lives, to feel we have choice, volition. Self-determination theory highlights it as perhaps the most crucial of our basic psychological needs, feeling like you're in the driving seat, not just a pawn.
And the evidence supports its impact.
Strongly. Studies show organizations offering more autonomy tend to grow faster, have lower turnover. There's a clear link between having decision latitude and job satisfaction, which is vital for retaining skilled professionals like those in medicine.
So how does autonomy translate into practical terms in a healthcare setting? You mentioned 4 T's.
Yes, a useful framework. First is task autonomy, having some say over what you work on. Think of 3M's 15% time for personal projects. For clinicians, maybe it's protected time for a research interest, a quality improvement project they initiate, or developing patient resources they see a need for.
Giving space for that self-directed work.
Exactly. Second, time autonomy, having some control over when work happens, moving away from rigid clock watching towards more flexibility where possible. Flexible clinic hours, maybe more use of telemedicine scheduled thoughtfully, respecting people's peak working times rather than enforcing rigid shifts for everyone.
Challenging in healthcare, but important. Third is technique.
Autonomy over how the work is done. Like Zamos, empowering call center staff to use their judgment, not scripts. For clinicians, it means trusting their professional expertise, allowing individual style and empathy in patient care, not enforcing overly rigid protocols that stifle nuance and the art of medicine.
Respecting their judgment.
Yeah.
And the 4th T.
Team autonomy, having some agency over who you work with, like teams having input on new hires or encouraging self-warning groups for projects based on shared interest rather than purely top-down assignments. Imagine the synergy in a team that genuinely chose to work together.
So for leaders, it's about actively looking for ways to increase autonomy across these 4 areas, maybe even asking staff directly.
An autonomy audit could be very revealing, surveying the team. And crucially, leaders need to consciously relinquish control, where appropriate, involve people in setting goals, and use non-controlling language, shift from managing to people to creating conditions for them.
Okay, that's autonomy. The second pillar is mastery.
Yes, the urge to get better and better at something that matters. As we said, control leads to compliance, but autonomy unlocks engagement, and it's only engagement that fuels the drive for mastery.
Which is essential in medicine, just complying isn't enough.
Not nearly enough. Mastery is about striving for excellence. And a key part of this is experiencing flow, that concept from Csikszentmihalyi.
Those moments of complete absorption.
Exactly. The surgeon focused on a tricky procedure, the diagnostician piecing together clues, the nurse managing a critical situation almost instinctively. Time disappears, the challenge matches the skill, and the activity itself is deeply rewarding. Csikszentmihalyi found denying people flow actually caused psychological distress. It's that fundamental.
So how do we foster mastery? You mentioned Goldilocks tasks.
Right. Tasks that are not too easy, boring, not too hard, anxiety-provoking, but just right. Stretching capabilities slightly. In medicine, that means ensuring people get appropriately challenging cases, chances to learn new skills, development opportunities that push them
And
gems.
deliberate practice.
Crucial. Mastery takes hard work over time. Anders Ericsson's work showed this. Focused effort, seeking feedback, working on weaknesses. Think surgical simulations, refining clinical skills, case reviews. It's often the consistent effort on the mundane details that builds true excellence.
And finally, the mastery asymptote.
This is the idea that complete mastery is something you approach but never quite reach, like an asymptote in maths, especially in a field like medicine that's always evolving.
So you never fully arrive.
Not really. But understanding that can be liberating. The joy, the motivation comes from the pursuit itself, the continuous learning and improvement. It fuels lifelong learning and resilience, acknowledging that perfection isn't the goal, progress is.
So organizations need to create opportunities for that flow, those Goldilocks tasks, that deliberate practice.
Yes, build a culture where striving for mastery is supported and celebrated. Protected time for learning, mentorship, challenging assignments.
And the third pillar, purpose.
The final leg of the tripod. Purpose is the yearning to contribute to something larger than ourselves. It gives context and meaning to autonomy and mastery. Why are we directing ourselves? Why are we striving to get better? Purpose provides the answer.
And this feels particularly relevant now.
Very much so. There's this sense, perhaps partly demographic with boomers reflecting, but maybe broader too, of people asking, what really matters? How can I make a difference? A real hunger for purpose.
How does this contrast with older models?
Well, Motivation 2.0 often defaulted to profit maximization as the main goal. Motivation 3.0 talks about purpose maximization, where profit is seen as a catalyst for achieving a larger purpose, not the end goal itself. Think of social enterprises, B Corp.
And healthcare inherently has a purpose, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Healing, care, discovery. It's profoundly purposeful. The challenge for organizations is to genuinely live that purpose, articulate it beyond just the financial numbers. Focus on community health, equity, patient outcomes as the real drivers.
How can organizations ignite that sense of purpose?
Through words and policies. Robert Reich's pronoun test is insightful. Do staff say we or they when talking about the organization? We suggest shared purpose. Leaders need to consistently use purpose-driven language.
Talking about the mission, the commitment to patients.
Exactly. And policy-wise. Things like pro-social spending, letting staff have input on charitable donations. Or that Mayo Clinic finding doctors spending just 1 day a week on their most meaningful work had half the burnout rate.
That's incredible. Like 20% time with a purpose.
Precisely. Directly linking well-being to purpose. And finally, it connects to the idea of the good life and having the right goals.
The Rochester study.
Yes, following graduates. Those pursuing intrinsic goals, personal growth, helping others, community reported much higher well-being than those who achieved extrinsic goals like wealth or fame, even if they were successful by external standards. The external stuff just didn't deliver the same deep satisfaction.
So for medical professionals, while fair pay is essential, the real long-term drivers of well-being are that sense of purpose, making an impact, continuous learning, and mastery.
That's what the science strongly suggests. Those intrinsic factors are far more vital for a sustained, fulfilling career than just chasing external rewards. The meaning is in the work itself.
So wrapping up our deep dive today, we've really journeyed from the limitations of the old carrot and stick model, Motivation 2.0.
To a much richer understanding, Motivation 3.0, built on our innate human needs for autonomy, mastery, and purpose.
And embracing this isn't just theoretical. It's the key, isn't it, to unlocking higher performance, better well-being, and genuine fulfillment, especially in a field as vital as medicine.
It really is. It's about creating environments where people's inherent drive can flourish, rather than just trying to control behavior with external levers.
If you found this deep dive valuable, please do consider rating and sharing with colleagues who might also find these insights helpful.
And perhaps a final thought to leave you with. In a healthcare landscape that desperately needs innovation, compassion, and resilience, how can we as practitioners, as leaders, actively ensure that our own drive and the drive of our teams is truly fueled by that deep sense of purpose and satisfaction, not just by external pressures, to build the healthiest possible future?
Join us next time on The Deep Dive.